All right, everyone, we should be live with a fairly early stream today. I'll probably do another Rumble exclusive Pixel Planet stream tonight because it was pretty successful, actually, all things considered. Hundreds of people were watching live. It was just a test without any audio or anything like that. Anyway, we have news to get into today. The cat is being chuffy right now, so you may hear her singing in the background. She's been zooming up and down the stairs, looking at me like a ferocious monkey or something like that through the bars on the stairway, actually. So I don't know what her problem is. The back door is open, which is why I have the robe on. It's nice weather, but a little bit on the breezy side. So we'll get into some news fairly soon. Let me make sure that we're actually live on Rumble. I believe it is likely. Yeah, we're live on Rumble. Go down to chat. Keep in mind, we are continuing to attack Turkey on Pixel Planet. So I'll post that again, although it's pinned at the top if you're watching on YouTube in chat. It's also in the description cross-platform here, but I'm going to post it anyway as a comment on both sites. There we go. You can take that link and continue pixeling in all the red that you see there in the Turkish crescent moon with the light blue of the ocean, Poseidon rising. Please don't do that over on the Greek side, though. Some clankers appear to have tried to sink part of their country into the ocean. They're rebuilding themselves. We're doing this because Turkish streamers decided to ignore my attempted peace accord. Whoops, big fucking mistake. Look at the chunk that's missing of your country. It will grow larger, by the way. It's going to be funny. Keep in mind that if you open up chat at the bottom, you're going to see some of the craziest shit that you've ever seen. Some people take Pixel Planet maybe a little bit more seriously than I do. Anyway, we'll start right off with the news. We're going to keep it a little bit short today because I'm going early specifically because I have something scheduled for later. I'll be stunned if we don't have a recession in 2023. I don't rule out something really bad, says Stanley Druckenmiller. Yes, and CNN, by the way, echoing the same basic premise this morning. The other night they had an article, it's not even an opinion piece, it's a main article, saying, well, there will be a recession in the United States. It's just a matter of when it happens. I'd like to point something out. We are technically already in a recession. When we get Q3 numbers, which will be in the next couple of weeks, I don't expect that GDP will have risen. I expect it to continue to be sharply negative. All signs point to that. I'd be very surprised if it was positive or not flatlining. I expect unemployment will have ticked up. I expect inflation will remain linear. That is that year over year, maybe it drops slightly. I mean, a month over month, it drops slightly, but year over year, it remains about the same. I see no indicator that anything is coming down in cost other than a marginal reduction in gas prices. Doesn't seem to have affected much else. So our central case is a hard landing by the end of 23, Druckenmiller told CNBC host Joe Kernan. But I don't know. I've been wrong on a lot of things. So in other words, you're like Robert Reich or Paul Krugman. I could be wrong on this, but since I do it for a living, that's our forecast, which is recession in 2023. We're already in a recession. All of these economists that work directly with the Biden White House in some cases are just trying to cover their asses for the inevitable. A recession will eventually be unavoidably declared because right now the Biden administration is doing damage control and saying, no, 2 straight quarters of lower GDP is not a recession. Yeah, that's the metric that's literally been used for a half century, but here are other economic indicators that we feel are more positive. Well, you've got relatively low unemployment. It's ticking upward and it's got low labor force participation, and a lot of those jobs are part-time and seasonal. But just trust us, you dumb fucks, everything's perfectly fine. I think that Ma and Pa America, when they go to the pump, when they go to the grocery store, when they do literally anything that involves a transaction in cash, they see a different story. But at least the legacy media belatedly admitting that a recession will happen, even if it's literally already there and they're just covering their asses. What this is an effective argument for is a recession that we're already in, continuing through the middle to end of 2023 and culminating in a further economic collapse. I don't think you're going to need to wait till the end of 23 in order to see that happen. I'm thinking first quarter of 23 is when the shit really hits the fan. Make sure you've got some extra canned meat and vegetables and shit. Make sure to stockpile a little bit of rice and some pasta and all the other things that you enjoy eating. Vegas Mark 725, Team Lombardo and Lexalt for the win. Yes, I did a video this morning. Nevada looks to be turning slightly more red by the week. if this continues and there's any swing in polling for the GOP at all, look at the generic ballot, you are going to see a red wave election. Tommy Robinson. Bolsonaro won big down ballot. The left is going in the runoff demoralized. It is still possible for Bolsonaro to win. We will be talking about that as a news topic. James Sticks, will we see anything happen with the Hunter Biden laptop? No, things may happen, but it won't be widely reported on. We already know that. Just fucking look at the news. Do you see anything about Hunter Biden in the news, or is it all a bunch of deflection? By the way, am I actually, is Rumble Rants working over on Rumble? Somebody on Rumble tell me. There are people watching. I know I'm live, but I only see two comments in the actual Rumble Rants there. I'm wondering if it's fucking up again. So yeah, hard drop is expected in the U.S. economy. Again, the importance being this is from people who are tied with the Biden administration. They don't right before midterms, you want to admit we're going to go into a recession. Basically, they're just covering their asses. They're like, we've circled wagons for the Biden administration, but it's not working. We expected things to get better. I think that we bet on the wrong horse in that particular race. Do some pixeling myself. Apparently, I've laid about 5,200 pixels over the last few days. I don't know. I didn't have an account before, so none of the shit that I did over the last couple of years on Pixel Planet actually is registered there. There are still people that don't think that that's my account. I'll go into chat and I'll troll people. I'm the one who helped destroy ICQ's web-based chatting feature. You do not want to play with me. Blue DeGolier, what are your thoughts on the Burlington High School banning the girls' volleyball team from the locker room to accommodate a trans teammate? I haven't, well, I did see this story, but I haven't read into it further, so I'd have to analyze that further in the future. I'll look into it, and maybe I'll make a video on it tomorrow. The next news story, Giorgia Meloni's feminism is a wolf in sheep's clothing. Giorgia Meloni's political views echo uncomfortably close to those of far-right extremist politicians in the United States. Yes, you've got Meloni derangement syndrome now. The democratic views of the people of Italy are counted as nothing. We must support democracy by vigorously doing everything that we can of both legal and illegal nature to keep people who believe in populism from holding office. Otherwise, we might lose our goddamn cash grift. That's really what this is about. Meloni doesn't even need to do anything in order for these people to dogpile her. She's probably aware of this by now, as would any other reasonable, sane individual. And so she got taken down a peg because she held up a couple of melons in front of her boobs there in a fucking TikTok video. Cringe? Yeah. Hilarious? Absolutely. It got people to do a little bit of a nervous breakdown there. And she's a Lord of the Rings LARPer. Yeah, she is clearly going to become the next Mussolini because of her deep-seated love for the Shire or the Ringwraiths or whatever character she happens to emulate. I don't know. I imagine her more as someone who would dress up as a wood elf myself. Although some have championed Meloni's win as she prepares to join the rare ranks of female world leaders in history, her election is absolutely anything but a win for feminism. Don't you dare give her credit for being literally the first female prime minister in Italy. She has the wrong view. She stepped off the plantation. It's like the first black person to do something. If they have views that are outside of the Democratic Party or neoliberal orthodox, they don't get celebrated for it. Here's a strong, empowered black individual. Uphold them. Take a knee before them. Build statues to them for succeeding. But Candace Owens? Oh my God, that's terrible. Clarence Thomas? No. Here's the top 10 reasons why he should be off the SCOTUS. It's hilarious. Rather, Meloni is an exemplar of how some white women weaponize gender and use it to oppress other women and minorities. Yes, they are really going with the WASP white woman line, even though she's Italian. Very funny. The grisly prediction that will likely come true. Biden is kicked shortly after the midterms, then all of the left screams old agery, doing everything short of unaliving Trump and his family. Shane Berryhill. Is Trevor Noah quitting The Daily Show the beginning of the end of traditional neo-lib media? There are plenty of other neo-libs in media. It's just this new asshole, same as the old asshole. Trevor Noah is washed up and unfunny, and nobody was watching his show, so they canned him. They'll get someone else in there that'll do the same thing, but be a little bit more talented, maybe, in the rhetorical sense. And then they will cheer and huzzah themselves and pat themselves on the back. Same propaganda, different face. Johnny is a sinner. Sticks 2024 is shaping up to be a cakewalk for Donald J. Trump. Don't get cocky. Just because things look up now, and I think will continue to look up through the future, doesn't mean you don't need a lot of fucking on-the-ground effort. Be like Bannon or Pressler, as opposed to sitting there and getting distracted by QAnon or funny memes. Jacob Hill, Quantum has nearly taken over New Zealand in Pixel Planet. I was not aware of this. Right now, the official campaign, again, link in the description on both platforms, YouTube and Rumble. Pinned at the top of chat on YouTube, you can join in. We are slowly sinking Turkey into the briny deep. We've taken a gigantic chunk out of them, about the size of Bosnia. So they're swimming right now. This is apparently some sort of meme about Greeks that they keep saying in chat. You should probably get an account in order to troll chat. There's basically no rules in there other than not spamming, and you have to speak English, which is why Turkey gets repeatedly banned day after day from chat. Aaron Army. Yeah, some army that you've got. We've wrecked your country for the 4th time at this point. How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? So yeah, but they've got Meloni derangement syndrome. She's vaguely feminist, but she's white, so it doesn't count, right? Yes, she's the first female prime minister of Italy, but she doesn't have the right views, so it doesn't count. Oh my God, she's espousing Christian nationalism. You've got to just go through the article. Links in the description, archived, of course, mostly. For nearly 200 years, a large and vibrant coalition of white women has framed sex equality to mean gaining access to the positions historically reserved for white, middle-class, and wealthy men. Kyla Schuler explains in her book, The Trouble with White Women, A Counter-History of Feminism. Yeah, that's post-third wave at this point. The goal for these feminists is to empower women to assume positions of influence within a fundamentally unequal system. Many of these feminists argue, either implicitly or explicitly, that their whiteness authorizes their rights. Yes, that's J.K. Rowling and Meloni and Marjorie Taylor Greene and other women who have positions of power and wealth. Clearly, it's all about their skin color. It has nothing to... So in other words, feminism is no longer about being female. That seems to be the case that they're making here. Part of Meloni's shtick comes in the form of being a working woman and an active hands-on mother. How dare she be a mother? How dare she care for her children? How dare she perpetuate her evil genetics, right, Marxists? Barb Rogers, Little Miss Sunburn, Meloni is all for saving Africa from globalists. Yeah, everyone should be free of globalism. It's not a white issue or a black issue or anything like that. It's a human issue. Globalism has failed. We've tried it for decades. It doesn't work for the average person. We should toss it aside and do something else. Global trade is fine. Global diplomacy is fine. All these post-national confederated sort of systems like the EU, NAFTA, etc., that draw people into these crazy negotiations and legalese clearly haven't worked. Have they worked for U.S. workers? No. Have they worked for Mexican farmers? No. Have they worked for people in Canada in the energy industry? This is what NAFTA was supposed to be about. No, it hasn't worked for them. Has the EU worked for the European people? Or has it worked for the 1% of 1%, like the Klaus Schwab types? That's all you need to ask yourself. CNN reiterating, by the way, the hard stop of the U.S. economy here. Third story, CNN posting this. Again, keep in mind as I analyze this morning, Oliver Darcy about 6 months ago bragged openly about the fact that the White House was attempting to use CNN and other similar news groups to peddle economic information. So when CNN says the question of a recession is no longer if but when, for the U.S. economy specifically, although it's speaking about the global economy more broadly as well. Well, take it to the bank. These people are in part being paid for by the Biden administration to peddle economic propaganda, and they're still telling everyone, hey, a recession is inbound. If ever my advice to people to prepare for the worst was a good idea, I'm doubling or tripling down on it at this time. As the person who first warned you that there would be shortages in the stores and problems as the result of the first wave of COOF lockdowns, I'm warning you now, you need to be prepared. If you have your home garden and canning operation going on, good for you. Make sure to haul in those crops and process them pretty quickly. You got a wood lot? You may want to split a few extra cords this season. You just might want to do that. Gas prices aren't going to keep going down, in my opinion. As far as recession, we're already in one in much of the world. Europe keeps warning recession is inbound. The German people, the German government has been warning about that for a month. You've been in one. Look at the energy prices that you're suffering. Look at the purchasing power of the euro. It had parity with the US dollar there for a while. That's a first for a long time. Europe's getting hit harder. Europe's economy is going to get hit worse than the US economy. At least in the US, even when the Beijing-Biden administration attacks its own energy industry, for the most part, you still have energy production. Europe doesn't have that boon. You've been importing it all from Russia. You've shut down so many nuclear plants. The Germans right now are coal-powered. Yeah, it's great for the environment, too. All that, I'm sure it's very clean coal. But you need to live in a pod, 5 people to a small room, Soviet style, so that the rich can continue their lavish lifestyle through the economic woes to come. Yeah. I'm going to be establishing gardens on 2 continents as soon as possible because I'm convinced things will get worse. I got to get all those heirloom seeds off of eBay that I used to buy. They have some good fucking onions, by the way. I'll be putting out a few hundred sets of those. I want to have that decor behind me. I want to have a little pantry and have like herbs hanging down like Skyrim style and shit like that. That's what I'm talking about. So CNN is admitting what all of us were talking about literally at the beginning of the year. Hey, it looks like we're already in a recession. Inflation is running away. Unemployment can't drop further. Labor force participation stagnant. What more do you need? There are no positive economic indicators, especially when we get the next economic indicators from the U.S. economy in the middle of October. So unemployment, inflation, what happened with GDP in Q3. I don't expect any of them to be positive. Oh boy, October surprise time. Only it's not going to be good for the Democrats because those are the main issues on people's minds. Next news story. King Charles is king in name at least in England, drops plan to attend climate summit after government asks him not to, UK media reports. Yes, Liz Truss has just barely taken her prime ministership up, and she's already cucking King Charles III. I admire her for doing so, even though clearly the UK right now is in flux. There could be some problems with their economy as well. They'll hit recession conditions pretty quick. And they'll blame it on Brexit. They're already laying the groundwork to do so. I find it funny that the king, who supposedly the prime minister serves at his whim, he can dissolve parliament, he can fire the prime minister and do whatever he wants. Supposedly, on paper at least, the monarch has that power. Liz Truss instead sends him a text message. Don't fucking go to this meeting. It's not going to be helpful right now because, you do realize there's an economy, sire, and the economy is failing right now. Don't go to the climate summit because they're just going to ramble endlessly about how solar panels are going to prop up the British economy. Yes, the manufacturing sector of Britain is totally capable of being entirely taken care of by solar cells and windmills. Well, it's not. Clearly it's not. And that's the point. Telling him not to go to COP27 is specifically to tell him to shut the fuck up because he's one of these green radicals, so to speak. And he does that to get popularity. He knows he's not a woke individual. He pretends to be one on TV. Charles understands that the green energy thing is basically a money scam. Liz Truss is not in on the joke and says, well, I mean, yeah, the billionaires will make a lot of money off this grifting, but we need to have an actual manufacturing sector. So we need coal, we need nuclear, we need all these things, and they're going to be ridden down at this particular conference, so don't go. I love watching a strong, empowered woman who don't need no man talking down to the king of her own country and getting away with it. CNN has reached out to Buckingham Palace for official comment. It sounds like you didn't get any comment in return. Charles already having problems, poor dude. Civic nationalism, 1776. Are we actually winning the war against wokeism? The indicators that wokeism is starting to decline in popularity among the powers that be is telling. Yes, we are. By wokeness, you mean post-Marxism, by the way. Yeah, we're winning the war on commie mentality, especially on the CRT issue, which is good. I'm seeing some clanking happen over on Pixel Planet. Again, you can take up that link in the description on either platform as well as pinned at the top of chat on YouTube. We continue making our saltwater swimming pool where Turkey used to be. At the moment, they don't seem to be fighting back much. They usually in the evening local time here, like 4 or 5 hours from now, that's when they start filtering in. Especially when they're whipped up into a frenzy by one of their streamers. Doesn't seem to be working though, Aaron et al. Hillary's third nutsack. Sticks, I've been on a huge prank call binge lately. 2 things. Do you have a favorite C-SPAN prank call, and are you familiar with the Ed Powell prank series? No and no would be the answer. I like the old style soundboard pranks with Duncan and the drug and alcohol lady. Always a favorite. Little India Grill. Those were some of the funniest ones. There's like 7 fucking compilations of calls to the Little India Grill. They call Savash with his own voice, and he just goes off and starts saying, like, you are the son of 100 fathers, and crazy shit like that. And it's at one time they called his supervisor, and I think the supervisor thought it was actually him. He was like, you crazy. It was great. Good times. The Grizzly, what's your favorite Flout faction from any of the games? Fallout faction, not just Fallout 4. I really like the Brotherhood Outcast from 3, but the NCR from Fallout New Vegas is up there. NCR is good. The Legion's good. They're funny. I would say the Minutemen overall, though, as far as being developed and having like ideas that aren't completely crazy, sort of is where I fall in. That's why I've got the Minuteman flag right here. I'd have it on the wall behind me, but the walls here are made of cement, so harder to drill anything in. These little sticky hangers that I've got for those, they don't hold up much weight, by the way. João Bertoncini. Hi, Sticks. We're hyper pissed here in Brazil by the blatant obvious frauds this voting without any physical tracks is allowed. Streets and ballots tell 2 opposite stories. So many mirrored counts. Yes, let's talk about Brazil. The Brazilians have avoided electing a socialist, but now it goes to runoff. Lula does have a advantage over Bolsonaro. It's a narrow one, though, and we have to wait and see what some of the other down balloters that aren't going to be in the 2-way race that happens at the end of the month. We have to see our endorsements, etc., and what happens with turnout. I would point out, and several Brazilian commentators have already said this just in the stream. I got some messages about it earlier as well. Apparently, down ballot Bolsonaro's people kicked ass. So even if Lula, the socialist and a criminal, manages to get his way back into power, he is going to be at least semi-kneecapped. That's the good thing, I would say, because the margin is so close and because Bolsonaro outperformed the final polls by 8 fucking points. If you're a fan of Bolsonaro there, Jair Bolsonaro, fucking knock on doors, fucking make the case, drag that one reluctant relative who kind of supports him but didn't make it the last time around to the goddamn polls, and save your country from socialism. Lula's an Anthony Hopkins-looking socialist, by the way. It's very funny. He does resemble him. If he would trim the beard and do his hair a little bit differently, he could be a stunt double. Probably also likes to eat people. Socialists, typically, they ruin the economy and then cannibalism becomes rife. I think we've discovered what Hannibal Lecter's secret plan was all along. And nobody. How bad will the world economy get now? I think a multi-year deep recession. I think something on the order of the Great Recession, unfortunately. So get that extra bag of rice. I know I did. Ensign Ricky, a fully modded Fallout 4 is still the best game that Bethesda has hands down. Are you stoked for the release of Starfield? I'm not going to play Starfield. And I do agree, if you mod Fallout 4 heavily on PC, it becomes almost like a totally different game. Like not just the unofficial Fallout 4 patch mod that you can get from Nexus or whatever it is now. They've had some problems in the modding community over the last year or so. I've got We Are the Minutemen, which makes them not worthless. 2K textures and stuff like that. It really does transform the game and makes it a lot more fun. Anything with regards to the settlement system is always good, but the unofficial patch, one thing that it does is it ties the likelihood of a settlement to get invaded to its defensive capabilities minus the amount of like food or water that's actually being produced, which I think was the intent in the base game, but they didn't really implement it properly. And so you'd have sometimes in the base game where 3 or 4 settlements are getting raided at once. You don't even have time to go to them all and help them. And things get damaged when you're not there, etc. In the patched game, if the settlement's defense is high enough, the risk of things getting damaged is low. The risk of settlers dying is gets low. and the likelihood of a raid reduces according to how many turrets you put up, mainly. Sponde, would you attend a convention of states and give your thoughts on an internet bill of rights? Yeah, I would. Yeah, I'd like to be a founding father in the digital workplace. And yeah, I support an internet bill of rights. So yeah, in Brazil, unfortunately, you're going to have a runoff. But fortunately, Lula did not get enough votes to secure it on a first ballot. That is very bad for the left. They are rather demoralized right now. If that demoralization continues, Bolsonaro could pull it off. It remains in the hands of the people of Brazil. Of course, saying this as someone who is critical of some of Bolsonaro's policies, you've seen rampant deforestation in the Amazon to build farms, mainly slash and burn, and the return of the deforestation of the Amazon is definitely not a great thing. Overall, though, all things considered, if I were Brazilian, I would vote for Bolsonaro. I definitely wouldn't vote for a socialist. Yeah, he'll give me free funny money that will be worth less and less. Yay, what a great time. Venezuela never tried that before. World bouncing bebop. Where do you see the world in 10 to 20 years, given the shadow government gets their way? If they get their way, we'll all be enslaved by then. Eaters of Dead, been trolling liberal channels to take the Open Mind Challenge. Listen to Salty Sticks, Liberal Hive Mind for 2 weeks. Hope you get new subs. Muhahaha. Unsigned Ricky, War of the Commonwealth mod makes Fallout 4 intense. Yeah, I think I did that for a while, but it was too intense, actually. I mean, if you crank it all the way up, then it's a never-ending battle wherever you go. You can never fast travel. It's fine if you're doing hardcore, I suppose, but then you will die at some point. Next news story, MSNBC making a cringe post. Whoops, we've got a cringe alert. America might need a Bernie Sanders presidential nomination even if he loses again, Zishan Alim writes. Yes, third time is a charm, according to the burnouts. They're actually going with the insane line that Bernie Sanders, #1, should run again. He's, 84 or 85 fucking years old. He should run again. They should nominate him. And even if he loses, they'd say, okay, that's perfectly fine. Dude, Bernie Sanders would get absolutely curb stomped by any Republican likely to run. He would get curbs. Liz Cheney would beat fucking Bernie Sanders. Pompeo would beat Bernie Sanders. Mike Pence would probably win. That's the last thing that we need, by the way. In the absence of Trump, you might have a neocon running. I don't want a neocon president. I would rather see a sane Democrat run, but they're as scarce as hen's teeth. You've got Joe Kennedy and a very small number of others who kind of stack up to the standards that one would expect of a presidential candidate. Otherwise, you're left with censorship-loving Klobuchar, elderly gatekeeper Joe Biden, completely goddamn psychopathic Kamala Harris, Buttigieg, who is basically a former also-ran. He's a fucking transport secretary. He doesn't know what he's doing. And he doesn't, by the way, have much support among the left anyway. So while I think he's potentially viable, he'd be a long shot, just to be clear. Elizabeth Warren, is she going to save you? She's the same age as Hillary Clinton. Hillary's ruled it out. AOC's easily too young and too fucking stupid to run. Michelle Obama has decided not to ever run for politics. Who the hell do you have to save you? You're probably going to end up having to make do with Biden. Yeah, I still give it less than 50-50 odds he runs again. I think that at the end, when they look at the rest of the potential Dem field, they're going to say, well, Biden will probably lose, but at the very least, even if he's a shambling vegetable, he's better than the rest of the crop of morons around here. I don't see anyone in the Dem field capable of carrying the Dem party forth into victory in 2024. Not with the economy being a main issue and probably remaining that way, by the way. Bernie Sanders would somehow do worse. Leftoidism has been rejected by the core of the United States, including a plurality of Democratic voters. If you nominate somebody like Bernie Sanders, he will lose. Just to be clear, the Democrats lose on day one if they nominate a leftoid. They will lose. The Republicans will swing to the center and gobble up every independent voter while maintaining the entire right wing. It doesn't matter if a few less of them turn out on a more moderated platform, like Trump runs again, but he drops a few of the more extreme so-called things that he says and says he uses a unity platform or something. All the never-Trumpers would vote for him. Mike Pence would endorse him. And it would be very, very funny to see because the Democrats will have gone off a goddamn cliff into literally socialism. Johnny is a sinner. How soon after midterms to expect Trump to announce? Assuming he announces, probably pretty quickly. My advice to him is to wait after the midterms. It looks like he'll do that. And give a few days or weeks for the candidates that you backed, who many of which are ahead, to gloat and to parade themselves around and take a victory lap. Let them have their victory lap. You know, you want to be in good with the MAGA crowd and not overshadow everything, and then choose to run. Yeah, I guess people are seething over because, yeah. Aaron says to get to Discord right now, ASAP. Oh, no. Aaron also says, gobble, gobble. I can't breathe underwater. I guess the Finns have put up their flag where a chunk of the Turkish flag used to be there. Yeah, we're sinking them. Sink or swim, and I don't think that they're swimming very easily right now. Again, please do not move over into Greece and start doing that. They're using the medium blue there. You can help them restore their flag if you want to. Again, link in the description on both platforms, as well as pinned at the top of chat on YouTube. I do ask you to do a little bit of pixeling in your off time. You can do it on your phone too, by the way. Just in your off time, you're not doing anything else, and you fill in a half a dozen pixels. And you add to the cause of sinking Turkey into the briny deep. Uniting, we're actually, it's a unity sort of thing. We're uniting the Mediterranean and the Black Sea together. We're hoping that their species will coexist peacefully. So yeah, they're literally begging Bernie to run at this point. To see how desperate the Democrats are, they're actually entertaining the concept that he can win again. For the third time. Dude, I don't even know if the so-called skeptic crowd and so-called anti-SJW YouTubers would be on board with a Bernie third run. I think that at this point, they're realizing, hey, maybe he's just a goddamn elderly grifter who's taking that money and buying homes every single time. I wouldn't be surprised in the absence of Biden if he runs. I think that he would throw his hat into the ring because he's just goddamn stupid and grifting. João Bertoncini, we have an actual psychotic justice of the Supreme Court that wants to set Lula as president so he can control 2 nominations bound to happen next year. Well, then you've got to defend your country by not just voting, but knocking on doors. There are probably plenty of people around you that would have generally supported Bolsonaro who didn't bother to go vote. They got demoralized. They looked at the polls and they thought that Lula was a shoo-in. I guess they were proven wrong. Confront them with that and get them to fucking vote. Civic Nationalism, 1776. Poland's ruling party formally claims 1.3 trillion of World War II reparations from Germany on German Unity Day. Lol. The Germans getting trolled by the Poles. That's it's deserved. VP Kamala Harris dodges question asking about the dispersing Hurricane Ian relief based on equity. Hurricane Ian made landfall in Florida as a Category 4 storm on Wednesday. Vice President Kamala Harris dodged a question asking if she could explain what she meant when stating that the Biden admin would take equity into account when dispersing natural disaster relief, which is code for race-based mainly. Her comments came on Friday after Hurricane Ian made landfall in Florida as a Cat 4 storm and in South Carolina as a Cat 1 storm. At least 47 people died in Florida. I believe that is unfortunately higher now. After the hurricane made landfall, Harris made the comments at the Democratic National Committee's Women's Leadership Forum. And here's her quote. It is our lowest income communities and our communities of color that are most impacted by these extreme conditions, Harris said. We have to address this in a way that is about giving resources based on equity, understanding that we fight for equality, but we also need to fight for equity. So in other words, equality under the law, according to Kamala Harris, who literally has legal experience, that's not a thing anymore. No. Equality, the government shouldn't treat people equally. It has to equalize them, make them equal in their misery, by the way, socialist style. And she refuses to explain. She won't answer questions with regards to that comment. And I'll tell you why. It's because the White House told her to shut up. Okay, you've had your piece. You decided to do a Sarah Palin rogue moment at this particular forum. We would appreciate it if you wouldn't do that again, Kamala, because we're having to answer too many fucking questions about what the fuck you meant. That's what happened. Jill Biden may have personally told her to shut the fuck up. Jessica Burbank, I recently purchased The Nature of Dreams, available for $5.50 on Amazon, and I found it extremely helpful. I learned to objectively analyze my nightmares about violent rectangles and successfully face down my fear of frames. Clank you, Master Sticks. I don't think that's the real Jessica Burbank, but I thank you for the super chat anyway. Zhao Bertancini. Thing is, Justice Alexander controls the vote count. Well, it didn't seem to work too well on this time around. Bolsonaro was 8 points ahead of where he was polled at. That's because you have push polling. In other words, it's close to fucking 50-50. In other words, the voting machine honking in Brazil didn't work out so well. And they don't have enough time to retool it. Did you see, by the way, Lula's statement immediately afterward? He looked shell-shocked. I think he genuinely thought that they would actually get him over that 50% so there wouldn't be a runoff election. And then he probably looked at the down ballot results and said, shit. Oh boy, I get to be a lame duck for a couple years. The Grizzly, I know you like cooking and Fallout. Did you know they have an official Fallout Vault Tech cookbook? Thought you'd like to know that. That sounds right down my alley. Thank you for telling me. Hillary's third nutsack. Let Biden run with Bernie at his side to win some of the lefty support Biden lacks. Can't stop the pudding and bran muffin train, nor the diarrhea. Oh boy, wouldn't that be a great ticket? Two elderly daughters that don't have a coherent sentence to utter. Bernie's not insane. It's just that his views are wacky. And Biden is literally nuts. He's got Alzheimer's disease. Boy, oh boy, wouldn't that be a winning ticket? Dude, Trump would destroy them. Then again, I think Ted Cruz would probably win against them. Sordid Sentinel over on Rumble. Finally able to catch you live thanks to insomnia. Just finished my first multi-stream to Rumble. Thanks for the many years of entertainment and analysis. Keep fighting the good fight. Thank you. Michelle Bode. Hey, Sticks, I stand up to bullies, as do you. Have you ever regretted it? Nope. I'd definitely regret anything more if I didn't, so. Sticks should have a bar in Bali, not a channel on YouTube. Start a little tiki bar down in Hawaii, maybe, or something. By the way, Hawaii, it's funny. Hawaii is really high tax and high cost of living, but have you ever checked land in Hawaii in the more marginal areas? It's actually fairly cheap. I didn't know that. Then I start thinking, well, I like pineapple on more than just pizza, so I don't know. It'd be kind of fun to live in the tropics. I imagine the internet's not so good there, being an island. And of course, a volcano might decide to kill you in the middle of the night, so there's that problem. Ryan McKenna, if things start falling apart, what are the chances of U.S. tilting authoritarian right if we go through this with the Republican supermajority? Inevitable. Given long enough in power, any group will become more authoritarian over time. I've lived through several sprees of authoritarianism. You have the 90s spree with the Tipper Gore Housewives of America. That was bipartisan. It was neocon, neolib fusion. Then you have the right-wing authoritarianism of the Bush administration. You have the left-wing authoritarianism of Obama. You have the rise of right-wing proto-authoritarianism with some of the groups that now basically have gravitated away from MAGA. They got pissed off because Donald Trump didn't decide to unilaterally ignore the fucking Constitution and the separation of powers. Now you have liberal authoritarianism under Bidenism, extreme authoritarianism, worse than I think we've seen in our lifetimes, most of us. Yeah, you will get the rise of right-wing authoritarianism too. I would say authoritarianism as applied to economic systems is inevitably left-leaning. But as far as tradcon sort of moralism, yes, you will see the rise of that again at some point. What'll end up happening is a purity spiral. So you'll get a group that's dedicated, for example, towards protecting the rights of young girls on sports teams and locker rooms at the pool and stuff. And that'll morph into, hey, we need to have mandatory government-sponsored re-education for people because they feel that they're trans or something. You may say that that's pie in the sky, not going to happen now, but I see the writing on the wall and it will. Really what you need to do is affect balance by being a libertarian and not supporting any power structure capable of becoming fully authoritarian. Kimberly Samuel, who should Trump's VP be? Well, take your pick. I think Rand Paul is the best. DeSantis is definitely on the list. Kristi Noem would be all right. Carrie Lake, if she weren't, I don't think that she would accept it, but Carrie Lake, I think, would be a very powerful VP as well. Myra Flores comes to mind. Getting a Texan VP, that would take Texas off the table for the Democrats for a generation. You could definitely do worse. Definitely, it needs to be someone younger than Trump. That's number one. It can't be a neocon like Pence again. He's not going to be able to get away with it this time if he tries to do that. And by the way, I don't think Trump would want to. Here's the thing. I think that Mike Pence and some of the others that were appointed by Trump as mistakes, you'll remember I never appreciated or supported Mike Pence's appointment and even got off the Trump train for a while because of it. What I think he was trying to do is to put neocons into positions of relative power, sideline them, effectively keep them doing nothing, but just have them there for show so that the deep state would leave him alone. Clearly, that did not work. Since it didn't work, Trump, in my opinion, should adapt his strategy, say fuck the neoconservatives, run against the uniparty. In the end, Trump may end up gobbling up leftist supporters. You ain't seen nothing yet with regards to crazy politics and strange bedfellows if Trump does decide to run again. I think, Monkey Grab Orange is correct. Carrie Lake is completely untested. Yes, I think she'll win and get that gubernatorial experience. The reason why I consistently say Rand Paul is the best choice for Trump isn't just because I like Rand Paul, although I do. And his dad, of course, great dude. It's not just because of that. He has legislative experience. He's well-spoken. He's in the right age range for himself to potentially run a viable campaign in the future. All you have to give him is experience in the executive branch that he does not currently have, plus the technical incumbency of having been VP. Rand will run and Rand will win. That's the easiest way to get a Rand Paul presidency. I would love it. I want a second term of Trump, and then I want Rand Paul to take up the mantle. And after that, DeSantis would be a natural potential running mate for Rand Paul in the future. By then, Kristi Noem, Carrie Lake, some of these others, there's a whole slew of upstart Republicans with relatively young careers and ages that are capable of fulfilling that role in the future. Right now, I say that it is fundamentally Trump's turn again. Let him run again, regardless of what happens, and get Rand in there. Long Dong John. Paul Krugman predicted there won't be a nuclear war with Russia the other day. Hope your bunker is prepared. Yes, remember that Krugman is generally wrong. He is the one who thought that the internet would be no more meaningful than the fax machine. Just to be clear, he also predicted Trump would collapse the economy and that under Biden, the economy would soar. He doesn't have any winning streaks in his career. I have no clue why people take him seriously as an economist. SP Elite, backlash for Dems as Biden doesn't finish his term. It's possible that that'll happen. There'd be huge backlash for the Dems. A lot of Democrats will say, a lot of his core fans, and they do actually exist, they're just not that common, would say he was pressured to stand down. By the way, that wouldn't necessarily be wrong, just to be clear. It'd be the best thing for the Democrats if they were to pressure Biden to stand down. They have a better chance with somebody who's, literally, they'd have a better chance with some no-name. Just go dark horse again. Try to do Obama 2.0 and get someone who nobody knows the name of from some blue state to run. I think Joe Kennedy is the natural heir apparent within Democratic politics. He's in a position where he can claim, here's a unique position Joe Kennedy finds himself in. Other than the dynastic name and relative charisma and likability, he's also relatively young. He's barely in his late 30s. Here's what he could say. You should vote for me because I understand that the Democratic Party has lost consistently because it is tilted leftward and leftward and leftward. And while we may applaud some of the views of the left, and of course I don't, I'm speaking as Joe Kennedy right now. While I can appreciate their candor and I can appreciate that they care, the average American just is not on board with the full plethora of things that they're suggesting. I was knocked out of my position within Congress by one of these left-wing individuals who presumably will go on to eventually lose their career, by the way. I know what it's like. I've seen the terror and the tearing apart of the Democratic Party, and I am uniquely equipped to unify it because I'm not just a liberal Democrat. I also understand that we can't have our way all of the time at every hazard and expect to win. We have to reach across the aisle, and there are voices within our party who say not to do that we're entertaining extremists. But we're not entertaining extremism. We're negotiating like every incarnation of government has done for the last 200 plus years. He can go for the unity candidate thing. I think it would work. Joe Kennedy, in my opinion, is the strongest Democrat within the party. And he's not even in office at the moment. On the Republican side, it's Trump. So we'll see what happens. But there are more and more leftoids within the House of Representatives, people like Ilhan Omar and AOC. And they would try definitely, brutally, to stop Joe Kennedy from being nominated. By the way, they would stand in the way of Pete Buttigieg as well. Be very interesting to see their infighting over the coming years. BW, funny how every right-wing authoritarian we had was better. George Bush is looking great. Commies make their enemies look desirable by comparison. George W. Was a leftoid, was a left-wing authoritarian, actually. Severe increases in government censorship. Severe increases in militarism. Severe increases in regulation. George Bush was not a conservative. Not by any stretch of the imagination. Anyway, I think that I'm going to go offline now. I told you I'd have to keep this one short. I have a scheduled appointment to keep later. And at some point, I should probably eat. I never eat before my live streams, and so I'm a little bit on the hungry side right now. I'm thinking about a ham sandwich, possibly, to celebrate what we're currently doing in Turkey. Again, take that fucking link in the description on either platform and pile it in. We need light blue pixels. We need to expand the ocean there. It's nice and clean and beautiful, too. Look at how fucking filled with crazy shit the entire world's oceans are on Pixel Planet. We're on a cleanup crew mission at the moment. That's about all. Peace out.